今回は両リーグの新人王発表の結果についてお届けします。他にも移籍最新情報、レジェンドインタビューなど盛りだくさんの内容です。気になるシーンはタイムスタンプからどうぞ。現地放送を翻訳してお届けいたします。
This is my jam right here.
Shopping in the airport.
What do you think of this? Seriously.
I'm leaving.
That's a young guy.
I'm leaving.
I thought it was young and cool.
Wow.
You ever want to feel really bad about yourself? Just walk through a mall for 10 minutes with Lauren.
That's not true.
And pick out what you think is good-looking stuff, and she'll be like, "Oh my God, you're old."
Why
that's
do you do
terrible.
my voice like that every
Because
single
that's what I
time?
hear every time you speak to
Lauren's
me.
got good taste.
Thank you. So do
Yeah.
you, the best outerwear in the game.
Oh, thanks.
Matt says it's not that you don't pay for it, but you paid for that.
This I paid for.
Thank
I
you.
rarely paid for a lot of stuff. But this I paid for.
Coming clean
Truth
on
comes
Tuesday
out.
morning. Happy Veterans Day, everybody.
Happy
Welcome
Veterans
to
Day.
day 2 of our live hot stove coverage from Vegas, from the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. So much going on here this week. If you weren't with us at all yesterday, the GM meetings are happening, and as such, we have 2 presidents of baseball operation joining us.
Yeah.
Paul Taboni, who's brand new to the Washington Nationals. Paul DePodesta, who's new to the Rockies, but certainly not to baseball. We've got players joining us, from distinguished alums like Joe Carter to current stars like Ryan Pepio. We have a lot to get to today. This is fun.
This is fun. What did you guys get into last night? I saw a picture, and I wanted to ask because I feel like you guys include me on everything, but I didn't know you went to the pool without me. What the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Zinc oxide and all?
We were just relaxing,
Yep.
talking about baseball.
Talking baseball.
Talking BABIP?
Yep. BABIP and advanced measures.
A little bit, got a couple of Z's in there.
Harold, we're
New War
walking.
was going to play big in some of the awards.
We're walking through the casino yesterday, Matt and I, and he's like, I need to get a feeling from a table. I need to get a feeling. So I said, all right.
So did he play?
Let's go. So he did. So he said, no, no, no. And he goes, that one. That lady looks nice. I said, all right. So we sat down. In
She took all his money. No way.
Not only did she take all his
Yeah.
money, it was less than 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, you beat me up pretty good. You know, it didn't help to have the cooler with you standing at the table with her phone out and her headphones on, and Miss,
I got
you
yelled
can't have
at.
your phone at the table. What? Miss, you can't have your phone at the table. Miss,
you can't film this.
Right.
You think I care? I was talking to Kelly Nash. I was in Philadelphia.
Where were you?
doing?
You disappeared yesterday, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, I honestly, I went shopping a little bit, walked around,
Yeah.
came back. I was in bed, sleep by 6:30.
Wow, you beat
I
me.
was so
I was
tired.
8:30 last night.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was pretty good. I'd never before. I mean, Vegas, city that never sleeps.
Yes.
And you got 3 people
Man.
in here that were in the rack before 9 o'clock. You were in early last night too, weren't you?
7:30.
But
7:30.
we're alive today.
We feel good.
It feel good
We
about
feel
it.
good. So while you were watching something else, or maybe rolling the strip on Las Vegas yesterday, there was some news around baseball. BBWAA Awards Week kicked off yesterday with the Rookies of the Year being named. Nick Kurtz in a non-surprising discussion, and Drake Baldwin in the National League in a much closer vote. Give me your initial reactions to the news, Harold.
Well, first off, Kurtz, unanimous, no surprise there at all. For Blake, congratulations. I didn't have Blake winning. I apologize, Blake. When I sat back and looked at his real numbers, and he's sitting here having 80 RBIs, 19 home runs, hit 3 whatever he did on a short stint, 125 games or something like that. Incredible year. I just thought Cade Horton, so many people talked about what he did for the Cubs that would overweigh it. So I missed it on the writers. I think the writers got it right. Hello, you guys hear me? I think they got it right on this one. That was tremendous for him.
Yeah, I too was a little surprised, not at the result necessarily, but at the kind of blowout nature of it, because Drake Baldwin, it wasn't close in the National League. I thought, if anything, it would be a little closer than that and probably lean toward Horton, but that was a surprising result.
Well, I like the fact they gave Blake credit for breaking with the club in the beginning of the year. You think about it, they had the injury. And so you look at what he was able to do all the way through, and then play the full, complete season.
Right.
And not just coming up late, and as Cade Horton did, and having a nice spurt.
Well, I think we'd agree, too, that Drake Baldwin is one of the reasons why the Braves are going to be so much better next year, because one more year of skin in the game for him. He's going to have his sophomore season to go through, having played through last year and winning Rookie of the Year. So these are 2 organizations, Harold, that have had a lot of success recently with rookies of the year. I mean, the Oakland A's had that great run between Canseco, McGuire, and Weiss. They had another run with Bobby Crosby, and I'm missing a couple guys, Ben Grieve. Of course, the Braves with Michael Harris II. Like, these are two teams that churn out good young players.
Well, and it's a tale of two different cities, really. I mean, one, the A's have been able to draft a lot earlier in the draft, kind of hard to miss when you get an opportunity to get a Kurtz or you get a Jacob Wilson. You get those guys.
Yeah.
So it's hard to miss on that.
Right.
And then the Braves done an amazing job of just developing.
Yeah.
You know, they're always in the playoffs, so they're going to pick later in the draft. Although, with the new draft lottery, I think it changes a lot of opportunities where you can pick guys. But I think really, for me, looking at it, though, it's really two different things I look at with the organizations.
Other news we learned of overnight. Not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Framber Valdez is here in Las Vegas. He headlines a interesting free agent pitching class this year. And according to social media, John Heyman on X, top free agent lefty Framber Valdez is here at the GM meetings. We'll meet with teams. Valdez is tied with Max Fried for most wins this decade, and second in quality starts to Zach Wheeler. That might come as a surprise to some. Quality left-handed arm, a lifelong Houston Astro. Who knows where he lands? I'll say it again. I think that the fit with the Mets is almost too obvious. Maybe because of that, somebody else sneaks in the back door, but there are going to be some suitors for his services.
Well, the way I look at this, it's early, right? I mean, we're talking about November still for him to get out there and have meetings. I think he's trying to beat the race. And I think he's got it's important for him to have some conversations. I don't think the whole deal with the catcher went over real well.
No.
And I think he's got to explain that away. I think he has to be able to meet in those meetings early to get that out of the way. I think that's why he's here. These are the people in the room here in Vegas that he has to convince of character. The numbers speak for themselves. And I think it really hurt him a lot more. A lot of people may not say that, but I think that I'm shaking off a pitch, throwing something else to your catcher really hurt him. Yeah. And he has to have these meetings and explain who he is. And I think he's here early. You might see guys at winter meetings doing this, but this is the play I'm talking about. That can't happen. And so he has to explain this, what's going on in his head, and be able to have a conversation. I think that's why he's here early.
You want to get inside baseball. There are retired pitchers all over the world, current pitchers all over the world, that think that is probably at the top of the cardinal sins list for a pitcher as a teammate. To do that. And you're right. He's got a little explaining to do. Maybe sell somebody on the fact that was an outlier. His character is very strong. He's been a benevolent guy. He's given a lot of money to charity throughout his career. And again, as John Heyman points out, one of the winningest pitchers of the decade. So there's
that's all. That all takes care of itself. It really does. And Framber, I enjoy him. I like him. He's a good person. All those things check the box. I'm just saying, for him to be here this early, it is not let me try to get the most money and convince people. It's more, I got to talk to some folks and let them know what was up, and that gives him all winter now to make a decision.
Really good point. Really fair, really good point. Here are the free agent starting pitchers, and that kind of segues us into our next discussion. You see some, perhaps, former Red Sox on this list, topped by Dustin May. He wasn't there very long. Lucas Giolito is out there on the market, and this from Christopher Smith on X. Craig Breslow and the Red Sox are in the market for a top starter to put right behind Garrett Crochet. They're looking at the top of the rotation guys, not 4 or 5s, meaning the Red Sox, who exceeded expectations last year in terms of a win total, in terms of getting to the postseason, are in the market to win. More from Breslow. I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time trying to add a number 4 or 5 starter. If we're going to make a starting pitching addition, I think it should be somebody who can pitch at the front of the rotation and start a playoff game for us. Makes a lot of sense.
Interesting here in that the Red Sox are saying we're spending money. Because if you're going for a top rotation free agent pitcher, you're willing to spend some money.
Yep.
The other thing I think will be interesting with the Sox, we know their minor league system is loaded. Are they going to go to Seattle, make a trade? Are you going to make a run for Skubal? Are you going to make a run with a trade possibility for that top-end starter as well? And the Dodgers have a bunch of guys you can go get. So they have some opportunities to be able to do some things. That's the uniqueness of the Red Sox or the Yankees or teams like that that have money, and also you have prospects.
There's also opportunities here, Harold, for the guys on this list who aren't Crochet and Brian Bayo, to establish themselves. Patrick Sandoval coming off a missed year after surgery. We saw a lot of like Peyton Tolley and Connolly early, and those are really intriguing young arms. So in addition to who they bring in, the young guys have an open canvas, and Red Sox camp in Fort Myers is going to be a fascinating place to figure out that 1 through 5.
Well, and that's another reason they're going to get a veteran free agent starting pitcher, it sounds like, because you're gonna need that influence on the rotation, and so I think that's an important move as well. Harrison jumps off for me. I loved his stuff in San Francisco. I know they changed his arm slot a little bit in Boston, but I think he's a sleeper.
Yeah,
This guy's going to be.
They gave up a lot for him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're just getting started here this morning. We have so much to get to today. Paul DePodesta is going to join us. Paul Taponi is going to join us. Ryan Pepio is going to join us, and headlining that group, our friend Joe Carter is here, getting ready to play a little golf this weekend. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run. And the great Joe Carter joins us live on the set here at the Cosmopolitan. Coming up next on Hot Stove.
Hot Stove is live from the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. The GM meetings have begun in earnest. The All-MLB Awards on Thursday. Golf galore. Vegas is the place to be. And JP Morosi goes where the action is. He's leading the lead.
You golf, don't you, Lauren? You golf?
A lot of postage, no address. That's what my dad calls it. I can hit it 200, 300 yards, but it could go behind me.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Thank you. The Blue Jays were impressive. That is for sure. We just saw him on the biggest stage, and a tweet that you just sent out caught my eye about his future. I felt like watching him with the Blue Jays, love of country on the biggest stage would make him feel a certain way. A lot of interest from a lot of different teams.
Lauren, I think we are very much in the early stages of the Bo Bichette sweepstakes. And because there are multiple elements of this, the interest from other teams, as I mentioned this morning, for Bo to play either second or third, in addition to his longtime position in Toronto at shortstop, in some ways, the World Series opened some eyes of people around baseball about Bo's ability and willingness to play elsewhere. And certainly he also showed, I think, a lot of character by coming back early when he wasn't fully healthy to do what he could for his team, and obviously had an amazing moment there in Game 7. So the Jays certainly still would like to have him. They also have Andres Jimenez at shortstop in a way that potentially could be an option for them for next year if they want to keep Jimenez there and then address second base or third base elsewhere. A couple teams I'm watching, especially the San Francisco Giants. They've been aggressive. Of course, they signed Willy Adames last year, but you look at second and third. They've, of course, got Chapman at third, but I look at second base for the Giants as being a possibility. And there are plenty of other teams, whether it's the Mariners, who now must replace 3 different infielders. There are some really good teams with multiple openings. The Boston Red Sox come to mind, too, that if they don't sign Alex Bregman, Lauren, the timing for me almost seems like Bregman decides first, and then Bo can wait and see, okay, who are the runners-up on Bregman as a third baseman? Add that to the teams that need a shortstop, and you have yourself a very strong market.
There is such a trickle-down effect. Which move starts the trickle-down, right? I was walking around the lobby. It was 5 a.m. this morning, and there were...
You're up early.
I was up early. There were already, JP, GMs and insiders galore. Who has the busiest week in terms of teams front office?
The St. Louis Cardinals, to me, Lauren, they were not a playoff team in 2025. They have a new head of baseball operations now in Chaim Bloom, and I believe the Cardinals are open for business in terms of potentially moving some of their more veteran players. Nolan Arenado, I think the time has arrived for them to move on from Nolan and vice versa. Brendan Donovan, there's a lot of interest in him. Alec Burleson on the pitching side, Sonny Gray. So the Cardinals are a team, Lauren, that I think they look at the landscape. They realize in the National League there are these super teams that of which they are not one of them at this present time. So pivoting a little bit, getting a little bit younger, and seeing what you might be able to get in the marketplace for someone like, especially at Arenado, I think it's a very strong likelihood he's going to be gone. But Donovan, Burleson, Gray, some other pieces there to get a bit of a younger team. Again, Chaim Bloom's focus has been on the player development side of things. This is much more of a future-looking Cardinals team team than we're used to
and
seeing.
2 years, $31 million left on that Arenado deal. Heimblum has his hands full and can do it with the best of them. I just got done, JP, covering the Phillies in the division series, and I saw firsthand JT Realmuto and the effect that a great catcher has on the entire staff. The pitchers told me we don't even have to go to the pitchers meeting. We do, but we don't have to because we know he's got us. There are a bunch of catchers' names that come to mind this offseason. Who is top of that list?
There are, and Lauren, that's a great segue there with Realmuto, because I do think there's a lot of pressure on the Phillies to sign their incumbent.
Back, no?
He's so important to them. I
Can
think
they bring him and Kyle both?
Yes, of course they can. I believe there's a decent chance that they will, but whether or not that happens, I look at this as being the winter of the young catchers who could theoretically be available. Now, I want to be clear about this. The Orioles are not shopping. They're not shopping Adley Rutschman, but his name I've heard from a couple different places speculating about would he potentially be available. Logan O'Hoppe with the Angels, Patrick Bailey with the Giants. There are enough young catchers in similar slots of their service time and different teams that could be looking for changes of scenery for some of their principal players, Lauren, that we could see some movement among the catchers, especially because, as you mentioned about JT, if for some reason the Phillies don't bring him back, then maybe they find a way to trade for one of these younger catchers who it's hard to replace what JT does.
So hard.
But you would consider maybe that defense first approach. And I think we're still seeing a lot of focus on the defensive side of the equation for these catchers, but there's still some offensive upside in people like O'Hoppe and Rutschman that we haven't seen come through necessarily consistently year after year, that I think maybe there's some untapped potential there.
You know, we just saw Alejandro Kirk and Will Smith on the biggest stage.
That's right.
On both sides of the ball. To your point, catchers control it all for their pitchers. We like to celebrate players on this show, and Kyle Hendricks calling it a career 2016 world champ. I have the numbers right here: 105 wins, 1,300 plus strikeouts. The professor, one of the good guys. What will you remember about his
He'll get
run?
one of the biggest ovations whenever he throws out a ceremonial first pitch at Wrigley Field going forward, because you think about what happened in 2016, Lauren. The Chicago Cubs do not break the curse without this man, Kyle Hendricks from San Juan Capistrano in California, Dartmouth College, a Dartmouth graduate, by the way. You think about he started the two clinching games in the two biggest series the Cubs played that year. Game 6 at Wrigley Field. Of course, what a night that was. They celebrated. I still remember what it looked like as I looked down from the press box. All the people outside there they are celebrating that one at Wrigley. And then, of course, he starts Game 7 in
still have
Cleveland.
It's almost a decade ago.
Exactly. 9 years ago, Lauren, now when you think about it. But what that felt like, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, because those moments will live on in the memories of Cubs fans forever. And such a classy person. I remember the story, and you mentioned the nickname Professor. He went back, so he signs as a junior with the Rangers at that point in time, traded for Dempster, by the way, which is a great part of the story, to the Cubs. And then he goes back to Dartmouth and finishes his degree. I believe it was applied mathematics and economics. So he is a very smart man. I can't wait to see what Kyle's going to do in his next chapter, but certainly he is an indelible part of Cubs history, beloved forever. And I always love when he took the mound at Wrigley. Sweet Emotion was a song that came out too. So just the way that park sounded, Sweet Emotion's playing, and Kyle, and just in a very calm way. The ballpark is roaring around him, and he has this equanimity about him on the mound. I've always loved watching Kyle Hendricks work.
So well said. It is awards season, and I'm told you have a fun fact on Drake Baldwin.
Drake Baldwin, yes.
About 30 seconds. Tell us everything you need to know.
Harold's listening right now. We love our two-sport athletes. Drake Baldwin, an outstanding hockey player in the great state of Wisconsin, is the same birth year as Cole Caulfield, who's a star player for the Montreal Canadiens. Cole might play for the Olympic team this year, by the way. But Drake Baldwin, I remember hearing from his hockey coach, Brad Bice, about what a wonderful hockey player and young man Drake was for him to coach. And you think about the athleticism. For all the parents and families out there, this is the Rookie of the Year in the National League. We're not watching film in black and white from 60 years ago. Play multiple sports. He's an outstanding young man. He learned how to be a great teammate in multiple contexts. Doesn't matter if you're going to the most famous college. You can get to be the NL Rookie of the Year by playing multiple sports, baseball, and the great game of hockey.
Every athlete at the highest level says exactly what you said right now. notion of parents out there.
I'm not a great athlete, and I say the same thing.
You play multiple sports. I've seen you on the ice.
I did, yes.
Welcome back to Hot Stove. Front Office Insights are presented by Sage. Excited to visit with our next guest. He's back in baseball. Paul DePodesta named president of baseball operations for the Colorado Rockies last week. Congratulations and welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Just a little foray into the NFL, and then back in baseball.
Yeah, just a little decade.
Meaning a decade with the Browns. So many things to ask you about, including the process here. Had you wanted to get back into baseball prior to this opportunity, or was this the one that sucked you back in?
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
Look, I loved my time in football. I wasn't anxious to leave, but at the same time, baseball is really my first love, and always kept my eye on it, always kept sort of up to date in terms of what was going on. And there were, I would say, a couple of situations out there that always sort of intrigued me. Colorado being probably first and foremost. I think just the unique challenge there, right? So when that came available, it was something I was definitely interested in.
Yeah, I got to circle back on the unique challenge because I want to ask you about Colorado. How do you build? How do you win? But I don't want to get there yet. I'm still stuck on the football thing. And I want to know, there's so many questions because it's such a big sport. Everybody watches it, follows it. You got a pipeline with college football, really leads right to the NFL. I'm curious, what did you learn that maybe baseball can apply with what football's doing and maybe help our pipeline?
Sure. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, obviously, there were some things about the game that were very similar, which was helpful to me even when I first got there. But there were also huge differences. I mean, obviously, no minor leagues, right? And that part was really tough for me to adjust to. And because part of that is it really changes your time frame when you're thinking about players. When you draft a player in April, he's either on your team in September or he's cut. Right,
yeah.
He's gone. There are no minor leagues. They joke around that NFL stands for not for long.
True.
But it's pretty true. So the idea of developing a player, it's not very common in football. I mean, certainly they want to develop their draft picks and things like that, but there's not a lot of patience around it. It's hey, you have to come in and be able to contribute to us right away, or we're going to have to find someone else who can, because they need to win that
still
Sunday.
Think there's an importance for the minor leagues? Because I know we've had a lot of executives kind of leaning towards a lot of college players getting drafted in baseball. I'm on the side of we still got to develop. Yeah. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do, and it's one of the things I really missed. Was having the minor leagues. I think it's such an integral part of the fabric. In baseball. It also just culturally it makes a difference. I think the relationships you build with players, again, the long-term perspective you have on developing people, again, not just on the field but even off the field, I think is really great for this game, and again, something I'm anxious to get back to.
So I want to pick up where Harold kind of left off there. It's been about 2 decades since you last had a discussion with, and I'm just naming some names here, tell me if I got the time date stamp right. You were talking to Davey Johnson about where to pinch hit Olmedo signs or things like that. And now you're trying to figure out with a lot of perspective how to win in Denver. How in the heck do you win in Denver? What are your initial thoughts in this big project?
Well, look, here's the thing, at least in my mind, is it has been done. Right, I was with the Padres, as you well know, from 2006 to 2010, and 2007, 2008, 2009. There were some really good teams in Colorado.
The Blake Street Bombers.
Yeah, and even before, right? The Blake Street Bombers, and then 2017, 2018.
Right.
So look, it absolutely can be done. I'm confident we can get there. I hesitate to give you all my theories right now on how it might be possible.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, there's some really talented people who've been there, over the course of the past 30 years. And one of the things I told the staff late last week was I'm really anxious to hear about everybody's experiences, things that they've learned about the ballpark, what they think plays well, etc. But look, it's a unique atmosphere, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
A big part of baseball is the analytics, and you've been on both sides of that. That's when it's starting up, and now obviously I'm sure you've followed it even though you're in football, and it's really coming into football quite a bit. So my question is, what have you learned watching analytics in football going, hold on, that doesn't make a lot of sense, this does, that you would bring to baseball and maybe look at baseball and say that doesn't really apply? And I understand, having known you understand, hey, there's got to be, the player is going to have some influence on the numbers. So I'm curious your thoughts with that football background. and analytics.
Sure. I'd say there are a couple things in football that I think were fascinating. The first is that it's really, really hard to properly allocate credit and blame among players. There's just so much going on every single play, and there are 11 different interactions going on, right?
Yeah.
And the outcome of one can dramatically impact the outcome of a number of others. So, the left tackle misses his block. I mean, it doesn't matter what the wide receiver does, right? The play's blown up. So, again, sort of really understanding the flow of the play and who's responsible for what is super, super complicated and not necessarily applicable. But what I think is applicable to baseball is just this idea of team. I mean, football really is a great, great team sport. Every guy has to rely on the guy next to him to do their job. And people think sometimes that baseball is a little bit more individualized, right? Even in the minor leagues, individuals move up, teams don't move up. It's the pitcher-hitter confrontation, that really defines the game. But I mean, you watch the World Series. I mean, that's team offense.
Yeah.
Right. That's
absolutely.
team offense. Yeah. And so I think there's this notion, certainly, that you can bring back this notion of team that I think is really important that maybe isn't everywhere in baseball.
Lastly, and I wish we had more time with Paul, but I guess first things first, you guys got to hire a manager. And these hires seem to go in trends, right? There's that wave of experienced guys that seem to come back at the same time. There are wave upon wave of guys that don't have any major league track record that come back. I'm not asking for company secrets and names, but big picture, what are the kinds of questions you're going to be asking of a new manager this year?
So much, I think, of what we're going to be trying to build right away is just culture, right? Organizational culture. What do we want our identity to be in Colorado? So I think that's probably as important as anything. I think, the managers that are great relationship managers with players, I just think that can't be overstated. I mean, it's just hugely, hugely important. I've had a chance to be around some great ones over the years, whether it's, Bruce Bochy or Bud Black, Terry Collins. I mean, guys who, did a really, really nice job with the players. So I think for me, that's sort of first and foremost.
Awesome. Hey, Paul, congratulations on this gig. We're all really curious to watch what happens under your leadership in Denver now. And thanks for taking some time with us.
Thanks, guys. Happy to do it.
It is awards season in Major League Baseball. Manager of the Year is tonight. We can hardly wait. 7 Eastern right here on MLB Network. Robert Flores, Buck Showalter, Tom Verducci with that announcement. Tune in. We can't wait to bring it to you right here on the network. You're looking at the finalists in the American League. Dan Wilson, John Schneider, 1 win away from the promised land. Stephen Vogt. And in the National League, Pat Murphy had the most wins in the regular season. Tito and Craig Counsell, all very deserving. JP Morosi, who is a voter in the American League. So we'll put that aside for now. National League, top of mind, what is the quality? What's the characteristic that you look at first for manager?
Lauren, first of all, thank you for not putting me in a difficult position. I want to stay on the good side of the Baseball Writers Association of America. All I can tell you, among friends here, off the record, my American League ballot in some order was the same order as those 3 finalists. That's all I can say.
Thanks.
They're all. That's a big time scoop. Put that one on the internet. Morosi voted for the 3 finalists, so I got it right, maybe. So in general, Lauren, I will say this: there are different ways of looking at it. I describe this as impact. Now, some say, well, it's who does the most with the least. That's one way of doing it. There were plenty of years, by the way, where I thought that whether it was Aaron Boone or Joe Girardi or Joe Torre before them, it's hard to be the manager of the Yankees, for example, or even the manager of the Dodgers and be manager of the year. But there are some years in which the big market managers do deserve it because they have a higher standard, greater expectations.
I agree with that.
Greater personalities, superstars to have to manage. There's a lot that goes on with that job. Dave Roberts did an exceptional job this year.
And he told me everyone wants to be told they're pretty in Los Angeles.
That's right.
And he has to manage
That's
that,
right.
to your point.
And everybody's got different ideas about their contract, their place in the organization. So I am not a fan of just saying, well, it's the most with the least. Sometimes it is impact. And I think all 6 of the gentlemen that you saw on that board a moment ago, they made great impacts. fascinating to me with Pat Murphy that as great as he was in year one, was he even better in year two? Because remember, the Brewers stumbled early and they're able to finish with the best record in the National League. Just simply extraordinary what Pat Murphy was able to do. Rob Thompson, again with the Phillies, a lot of injuries that they had. Terry Francona back in the dugout, getting the Reds of the postseason. So this is the award among many awards, Lauren, where there's no wrong answers. I do think that with the National League, it's hard to argue with the job that Pat Murphy has done. And in no way should managers be set aside if you said, oh, well, you won it last year. No, you should be able to do it in back-to-back years. If you're the best in back-to-back years, what are we going to say that Ohtani's not eligible for the MVP in consecutive years? So I've never bought that. The only award that you, by definition, really can't win in back-to-back years is the Rookie of the Year. You can't do that. I voted for Kurtz. Not a huge surprise. I had that ballot yesterday as well. So that was I had Narvaez a bit higher than many others did. So I thought he had an outstanding season there behind the plate. But a lot of things to like in the American League rookie class and now in the American League manager class.
What sets this group apart in the American League? I know you can't tell me who you voted for, but the qualities that each possess.
I spent a lot of time,
I'm sure
Lauren,
you did.
reflecting on this one because there is a strong case to be made for all three, in all different cases. Stephen Vogt, you think about what he did. You lose players in the middle of the year, either via trade or, of course, in the cases of Clase and Ortiz. And then you still find a way to win the division. How does that happen? What Stephen Vogt is able to do. So I think that, to me, stood out. The work of John Schneider in Toronto. Again, people sometimes forget in the story of the Blue Jays, they didn't have Max Scherzer for most of the year. Anthony Santander was their big-time signing, and he was not really a factor. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. having to manage that situation, then having to have those conversations late on in the year about moving key guys like Bassett and other key members around to different roles. Again, a lot of that was when everything was already decided. Of course, we had to vote at the end of the regular season. But to me, Lauren, John Schneider's work was stellar. Dan Wilson, what he did, bringing in two key guys on the corners of the infield and getting that young pitching staff through it. So 3 great answers, and I'll tell you why I voted the way I voted tomorrow morning.
You'll text me tonight.
Yeah,
I can't wait for it. JP Morosi, appreciate it
Thanks,
so
Lauren.
much. The Nationals will have a new manager, and their front office looks different as well. A large, young core there in our nation's capital. And Paul Taboni, the new architect, hoping to take them to the promised land.
The run that would win the World Series is at first, and Joe Carter is the batter.
Here's the pitch on the way. A swing and a belt. Left field, way back. Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays are World Series champions. Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch 'em all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
It is still and will always be one of the biggest moments in the history of our sport. 5-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champ Joe Carter responsible for it and joins us on the set in Vegas. Joe, good morning.
Matt, good morning. Harold, good morning.
Does that ever get old, Joe?
No, it doesn't get old, but you know what? For the first time in 32 years, I was hoping it would end like that this past World Series.
Yeah.
I was ready to give up my crown. I really was. I was ready to relinquish it. I'd held it 32 years. Man, it was this close.
Yeah, it was.
This close.
It was a heck of a series, man. It was amazing. Absolutely.
You played with a lot of teams. You know, we're always going to know you as a Blue Jay. I think Torontonians claim you as one of their own, and you were up there to throw out a ceremonial first pitch during the World Series.
Yes, Game 2. Cito threw out Game 1, and so, you know, I get there, I get on the mound and everything, and, you know, I hadn't thrown in a long time, but Bo said, don't worry, I got you. So it was a little bit, you know, a little bit outside.
Were you worried that Bo's knee was hurting and you might have just knocked him out of the game with your
No, I tell you what, for that young man to play in that World Series and the way he performed, him and George Springer,
yeah.
I mean, that was those are old school guys. Because a lot of these young guys, they don't go back out there and play like we used to.
And
Harold.
Bo had a free agency on the line. You know,
Yes.
went out there and actually showed what he could do. Joe, your personality is what stands out all the time. I see you jogging around on the home run, but that's Joe Carter. You came out throughout the first pitch. You're throwing your arms in the air. One of our favorites, and I know Matt's all time, is you're a prankster. And people love the Bell prank, but you pull off a lot of stuff. But go ahead and take us through that one again.
Oh, man. You know, you're around these guys, you know, 162 ball games. You know, you got spring training back when we played. Spring training was, what, 2 months?
Yeah.
So you're around. You're around these guys. You got to have some fun. So I learned from guys like Bert Blyleven. You know, I remember the time when Bert in California, they had the free giveaway, the trip, and he went out there with his suitcase. But with Derek here, we had just clinched against the Tigers in '92. And he has this Jeep. The Jeep probably cost about maybe $10,000, but the sound system was like $50,000. And so I had an idea, and so Cito goes, "Hey, none of you young guys go in the clubhouse after, you know, when the game starts." So I go in there, we get his car, we wax it, shine it all up, and I'm getting ready to start it up and take it onto the field. It wouldn't start. And so I'm down in the tunnel, and I'm kicking it, I'm hitting it. And as soon as I hit the steering wheel and turned it, it started up. And so we had Tom Cheek and Jerry Howard. They had a rap video going that time.
The two radio announcers for the Jays.
Yeah, the two radio announcers for the Jays. And me and Candy Maldonado, I'm rolling out there. We had a real ticket, and the look on Derek Bell's face is priceless.
He bought it. He really thought they were giving away his Jeep.
Yeah, he's like, what? Yeah, hey, I should have told him it was Operation Shutdown.
Hey, Joe, so you're here in Vegas for this golf tournament coming up this weekend, the inaugural MLB Open. It's going to be a lot of fun. In fact, we're going to talk to Mike Flaskey, who's putting it all together here in a moment. You told us a great story once, and you've been traded a few times in your career, about learning of a big trade while you were either coming off of or getting onto a golf course from a caddy. Remind our audience of that one.
It was during the winter meetings, December 6th, 1990, and we're playing at Grand Cypress in Orlando. And I had played 27 holes with Scott Sanderson and Steve Psycho Lyons. And I had just got done, played an extra 9 holes, and I'm coming off the course, and the caddy is cleaning our clubs and everything, and he goes, "Did you guys hear about the trade?" I go, "No." He go, "Oh, man, big trade. Everybody's talking about it." I said, "Well, who got traded?" So my name is on my cart. And he turns around, he looks at the cart, he looks at me. He looks at the cart again, looks at me, and he goes, "You haven't heard?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, I hate to be the one to tell you, but you and Roberto Alomar got traded for Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez." And I go, "No, that is no way that happened." I could not believe it. Saw Donald Fear, who is our executive from the owner, the players, MLB players.
Yeah.
And so he told me, yeah, it happened. So that was before cell phones.
Yeah.
So that's how I got notified.
Imagine the caddy looks at your cart and says, "You are the one that got traded, sir."
Wow. And at that time, where'd you go, to Toronto? Was that?
Yeah. That was Toronto.
At that time, going to Toronto was not like it is today. You were going to play outside in the freezing cold.
No.
Did they have the dome by then?
Yeah, this is 91. This is 1990. The dome came in 89.
Yeah, the dome came in 89.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No.
So you didn't mind that. Could you imagine if you got traded to the lake? Ooh. Did you ever get up there when it was playing outside?
I never saw Expositions.
Did you ever play
Did
you ever play
I
outside?
played at the X, man.
Never saw it.
It was so cold.
See, if Harold had played at the X and he had played center field, they never would have saw Harold in center field because you can't see his slope for football.
The slope down. And so the center fielder, you didn't see him.
Joe, look at these. You played at Cleveland. Put that list back up there again, folks. You played Cleveland Muni, the mistake at the lake. You got into Skydome when it was brand new and shiny. When you were in Baltimore, Camden Yards was with us, fortunately. But, man, that's quite a
Padres wasn't anything in 90.
That was Jack Murphy back then.
Murphy. Hey, I came from Cleveland, went to San Diego, so that was great.
So you played. Look at your numbers, Joe. You put up Hall of Fame numbers.
Yes.
You look at your numbers. I think during the World Series we talked about it. You averaged 29 homers and 107 RBIs for 12 straight years, or 10 straight years, or something crazy like that. And you played in ballparks where the ball didn't carry.
Right. The thing is, Harold, as we get older now, being 65 years old, what are you, 70, 72 now?
75.
75, yeah. I feel that when people mention the name Joe Carter, they forget about the consistency I had with the home runs and RBIs. There was a stat out I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And they said from 1986 to 1995, I was #1 in home runs and RBIs, in both leagues. But because of the home run, it takes away from what else I accomplished. And so, it's good and bad. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it the same.
I remember the first time, Matt, I saw Joe Carter was at the NBC tournament in Wichita,
Kansas.
Mark Langston, Tony Gwynn, Joe Carter.
Is that the one they play?
Alvin
They play
Davis.
that into the darkness of night.
Yes.
They play all night and all
No,
morning.
that's in Alaska.
Oh yeah, the Alaska, but also
in Wichita, we played all night.
Yes.
Yeah, all night long they played games. It was amazing. Mike Moore. There was a lot of big leaguers that was in that tournament.
We had a great team, the Boulder Collegians. I mean, we had Dave Yobbs, Kelvin Torvey. You had Mark Langston, Tony Gwynn. Al Newman.
Yeah, they had a lot of players.
We had some players, and I think you played with Fairbanks, didn't you?
I was with Fairbanks.
Yeah, that was where all the good players went.
That's where the famous Harold soundbite comes in. I played with him up in Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
You did play with some guys up in Alaska.
I had some dudes on my team in Alaska.
Joe, we need to see more of you, man. We'd love to see more of you on the network.
Real quick before we let you go, when did you start golfing? Because it was kind of taboo when you were a player, when we were playing, to golf. And you're really a pretty good player.
Wait a minute, it was taboo for you guys? No.
Yeah.
No,
you were playing all the time, huh?
I was playing, Billy Williams, when I first signed, I had the Louisville Slugger contract. And at the time, they were offered me $250 or a set of golf clubs. And Billy Williams said, take the golf clubs. And so that was 1982. So I took the golf clubs. I started playing a little bit. But it wasn't until I retired that I was able to really enhance my game. But telling you what, in Toronto, we go on a road trip, we had 25 bags.
Wow.
See, we never did that.
I played,
amazing.
and in fact, I hit 3 home runs 5 times in a game. 3 of those times I played golf in the morning.
Oh, take that, management. Take that with your no golf policy.
Yes.
Joe's going to be one of the favorites at the inaugural MLB Open coming up at the end of the week at Shadow Creek.
Ernie
and in
Clement.
fact, you're playing with Ernie Clement.
I'm playing with Ernie.
That's a fun duo right there.
Duo.
We can't wait to watch, and you're going to have a chance to watch it live too. And the gentleman putting it all together, our friend Mike Flasky. There's Mike. Is going to join us next to talk specifically about the tournament, who he's installed as the chalk. I don't know. Is there a betting market on this? Get me to the window. I got my money on Joe Carter and Ernie Clement.
Ask Flasky about my pecan pies.
Oh, okay. We're going to do that again next. Mike joins us to talk about the MLB Open. Joe, thanks. Good to see you, man.
All right. Good seeing you, Matt. Harold. Love you guys.
Be right back.
Here we are, Shadow Creek. What an amazing week of weather we have. It's the Capital One MLB Open first year. We got a great field of current and former MLB players that are going to be competing for the team championship. All 30 clubs are represented, and you want to talk about the perfect background to run an event like this. It doesn't get any better in Shadow Creek. Tune in November 18th on TNT at 9:30 p.m. and watch the action.
That's our friend Mike Flasky telling you about something that we are so excited about, and you can watch MLB legends and stars tee off in the inaugural Capital One MLB Open at Shadow Creek, November 18th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on TNT. Go to MLB.com/golf for more details. We'll have expanded coverage on MLB Network. And Mike joins us to talk about an event that has everybody's attention. Mike, good morning, man. Good to see you.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
This is such a fun thing. I know that the groupings, the pairings kind of came together. There were people that had other commitments. You've got the final group here, and I love the way you've put this together, man.
I made them last night, and your show's going to be the first to see them. So we got them.
Yeah, Harold's going to love this too. Do we have this built, or should we just read them off?
You want me to read?
Yeah, give us the featured groups.
All right, how about the Dodgers Blue Jays? Will Smith and Andre Ethier and Ernie Clement and Touch 'em All Joe Carter. How about that?
He put these teams together for a good reason.
It's a good draw.
Then we got the Red Sox Yankees. We got Kevin Millar and Dustin May. And we've got CC Sabathia and Nick Swisher with the Yankees.
I saw CC yesterday walking in off the course, coming in through the hotel.
CC's going to play with earplugs because you'll be able to hear Swishalicious like 7 holes away. You'll hear him everywhere.
Yeah, and then we got Justin Turner, Dexter Fowler for the Cubs, Corey Lee, Paul Konerko for the White Sox, and on and on and on.
This is so good. Who do you install as the favorites?
Well, it's hard to say. It's a team.
Where's Smoltz at? Who's Smoltz with?
Smoltz is with Michael Harris II.
Okay.
And they are paired tomorrow with the Mets, David Wright and Cliff Floyd.
How good is that?
That's good.
That's going to be so much fun. Here's some of the notable current and former players that are involved. Dallas Keuchel's playing for the Astros, I would imagine, right? Is he repping the Astros? Yep. Okay. And there's some guys on this list, as you leave it up there for a second, that really can play some golf, too. And then there are other guys who are kind of wild cards. We're not sure if they play a lot of golf. Does Frazier play a lot of golf?
I'm not sure if Frazier plays a whole lot. But I'm sure he does. Yeah, he plays.
Mike, I want to talk a little bit more about your background and some of the things you're doing now. You're working with Kevin Millar on a pretty cool thing for Boston fans. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm the CEO of a company called Hornblower, and we have a brand called City Cruises. And we take 22 million people a year around all these major metropolitan areas on dinner cruises, cocktail cruises. And we created this really cool thing called City Cruises Live. And through my relationships with the players, we got the 04 Red Sox, and Kevin was the captain. He brought Derek Lowe. He brought, Clay Buchholz, guys off the 04 team.
Now he's the captain of the
Now he's the captain, Harold. That's right. And we did the same thing in Chicago. And, Chicago, we had A.J. Brzezinski and Ozzie Guillen as the mainstay.
Cool stuff.
So we basically allow folks to come in and have an experience of a lifetime with these legends and talk all things the World Championships.
But we got to do that in Seattle. I mean, you want to talk about cruises? We got all the water right there. Let's make this happen.
You do.
We got to make that happen.
Harold will put you in touch with all the former Mariner dudes. Let's go.
We'll hook that up. We can make that happen.
Your background, though, Mike, goes in what you're doing now with your company, working within baseball, seems like a pretty natural fit. I want to hear all about playing for Gaylord Perry, signing for him, and the relationship you had with him in college.
Yeah, Gaylord, man, he was like a father to me. I played for Gaylord for 3 seasons at Limestone University in Gaffney, South Carolina. I was a center fielder. And, was blessed to be able to play a little bit, but not quite good enough to get to the big leagues. So I went into scouting afterwards, and I was a scout for the Montreal Expos for 3 seasons, worked for a guy by the name of Fred Wright out of Charlotte, North Carolina, who was a long-time cross-checker head scout guy with the Pirates and the Expos, and learned a lot about that, but built a lot of relationships in baseball. And after I sold my former company to Hilton in 2021, we started Mike Flasky Entertainment, and we've basically created and or run all of the major celebrity golf tournaments on the circuit. Our tournament director that's been the tournament director for every event, including the Capital One MLB Open, Mike Milthorpe, started Tahoe, the American Century. He still runs that to this day, and we run the event in Orlando, or he does the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. So it was a natural fit. I presented this to Smoltz and Millar about 3 years ago, and they set up a meeting with Bill Morningstar, and I presented it to Bill, and then he set up a meeting with Noah and his team, and I presented to them, and they said, we're doing this really cool thing in Vegas called the All Awards Show, and we want this to be the cornerstone, but we're not quite ready. And so they called this year and said, let's do it. So here we are.
That's tremendous. No, you got with the right people. I guarantee you that. Gaylord, quick story, Gaylord. So I got called up and had a chance to play with Gaylord in spring training. And the ball hit to me, and I caught it, and it was like the dog had the ball in his mouth. It was so wet. And I threw the ball, and I threw it away. And Gaylord turned around and goes, "You'll get used to it, kid. Don't worry about it." He greased this ball all up, man. That's a true story. I'm telling the truth on that.
He was incredible. I'd say Gaylord was unconsciously competent, right? He was not a technical guy, but boy, was he amazing to play for.
He is something else.
Hall of Fame career. Did he ever preach the art of how to wet it up with you guys?
Matty, it was a hard slider, man.
Exactly. Now, legend has it, all right, that he used to put the Vaseline on his zipper because he said nobody's going to check any man when they come out there in the private area.
Look. He got traded and played for 9 different teams, so it got to be expensive.
You got one hole to win. Best. You got one hole to win, and you got your choice of MLB Network personalities to win that hole with. Are you taking DeRosa, Plesac, or Millar?
Woo! They're all my buddies. I don't want them to get mad at me. I'll have to go with 1-5, Kevin.
Wow, you sure? Yeah. You want to watch this video and then tell us if you're sure about that? Because this might change his invitation list a little bit. This is the guy that's your ride or die, huh?
What can I say? 1-5 is the man.
Nobody like Kevin. He's special.
We love him. He's special.
I want to ask you about the golf thing real quick for baseball. I kind of touched on this with Joe Carter. When did you see it exploding? Like, golf has taken off clearly, but how about with the baseball players?
Yeah.
Seems like everybody's playing now.
Yeah, well, it all started with Tiger, right? Because he made the sport cool, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody that were the great athletes of baseball, football, basketball, it was okay to play golf, right?
Yep.
So we got a generation now that kind of came up playing golf, right?
Yeah.
When my day, golf, that was
even as a scout, you probably said you can't golf.
Oh,
you mess your swing up,
100%, 100%. So, look, we started seeing the baseball players. They got 130-mile-an-hour club head speed. They hit they carry the ball 350, 360. And that's why this team competition is going to be so cool, because really there's only about 4 guys.
Who's the longest driver that you've seen, baseball-wise?
Well, I would say
Trout.
Josh Donaldson is up there.
That's a good call.
And Josh Beckett. Josh Beckett hits it forever.
Good stuff.
Wow.
Mike, we appreciate you being on with us, man. We can't wait for this event. You can watch it again on November 18th on TNT, expanded coverage on MLB Network. Mike Flaskey joining us on the program. Thanks again, Mike.
Thank y'all for having me.
We're going to take a break. It is Veterans Day, and we will celebrate it along with Major League Baseball. MLB putting this out on Veterans Day, and every day we offer our sincere gratitude and honor to the brave men and women who serve our country both here and abroad. We second that. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. We'll celebrate a little bit more when we come back on Hot Stove. On this Tuesday, we celebrate Veterans Day, and ACP is an organization that was founded in 2008 during the surge in Iraq. It's a year-long mentorship program that has more than 120 corporate partners, including MLB, and they're constantly looking for more support. In fact, MLB's relationship with ACP has been as such that 148 proteges have accepted employment during their MLB mentorship with the support of their MLB mentors. It's a program that baseball is very actively involved in and supports, and we are pleased to welcome a couple of gentlemen who can speak on that end. Isaac Cantu, who's an ACP protege from the U.S. Marine Corps, and ACP former alum protege from the U.S. Marine Corps, Scott Camisa. Guys, welcome. Good morning. Happy Veterans Day.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Isaac, let's start with you. Tell us specifically about the mentorship program that you were involved with and how it has impacted what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I separated 3 months ago. And so I think after a month of separation, I signed up for the ACP program. And they really honed in and tailored a specific mentor for me based on like what I needed, so my needs. And quite frankly, it's been a really remarkable and useful program to gain access to somebody who has been out and was actually in my shoes not too long ago and provide me valuable insight for gaining employment and starting this next chapter of my life.
Well, Scott, you being the former guy and really a guy that you can look up to and mentor, well, what has that been meant to be the guy that can mentor people like Isaac?
It's an outstanding experience. I'm also employed at ACP, and it's been a wonderful experience because when I transitioned out of the military, I went right to a 4-year degree. I went to Columbia University right here in the city, and I had to do my transition all over again after completing my 4-year degree. Luckily, I was able to come on board at ACP and not only work for the organization, but also get a mentor. My mentor, Sarah, was unbelievable. Just to have a sounding board, to have someone that I could connect with every month, just to have candid conversations. Completed the year-long mentorship and instantly signed back up to be a mentor because I think everyone deserves to be a mentor at some time in their career and also to be a mentee because we're all growing, we're all developing. And so to have a young Marine next to me who transitioned out 6 or 7 years after me, to be able to give back and still provide that guidance to the next generation, because we all want to be successful after our military career, and that's what ACP helps enable.
So it's my understanding, gentlemen, that each of you served in the U.S. Marine Corps for about 6 years. And I guess generally speaking, Isaac, talk about the need for corporate partnerships, because there are a lot of men and women who finish their military duty and then they find themselves kind of looking around the room thinking, what next? What is that need like, and how can corporate partners help?
Right. So, I mean, the main thing the Marine Corps teaches you is to embrace the suck and figure it out, you know. Come up with a solution. We're going to give you 100 problems in your, in your first year. Come up with a solution. So I think that Marines are getting out. They are so used to coming up with solutions on a regular basis that it's a second nature, right? It's second nature to come up with solutions, but also lead individuals. So I think that's one of the most valuable things that Marines that are freshly out of the service bring to the table.
Hey, Scott, what does Veterans Day mean to you? We sit here on Veterans Day today, and I'm sure it's had even more meaning the older you've gotten. So what does it mean when you hear Veterans Day is coming along and we're sitting here today?
Well, first, I want to say yesterday was the Marine Corps birthday. Happy 250th birthday to all the Marines tuned in. And Veterans Day generally, it means so much because it gives us a chance to reflect and to really honor those who have served our country and who have given the ultimate sacrifice. And so whenever I get to attend these Veteran Days events, it's just wonderful to connect with my fellow Marines, my fellow veterans, because this is an opportunity for corporations such as MLB to put on events that really honor our service and honor our commitment. And so it's always an opportunity to reflect and reconnect, ultimately. Isaac and I met just today, but already we have that fraternity, we have that camaraderie from the Marine Corps, and we're absolutely going to stay in touch afterwards. So it's a great opportunity to connect with your fellow veterans, see what they're up to in their career, and also reflect on your service a little bit. It's always great to share some war stories about your time in the Corps, and so it's a wonderful experience to have this.
Wait a minute, Scott, war stories. I'm looking at where you were stationed, bro. Hawaii, Sao Paulo, Milan.
You skipped over one. I think you skipped over Kinshasa, DR Congo.
I did, on purpose.
Yeah,
I just wanted to highlight the fun stuff. But yeah, no, you put in your time, man. I'm playing with you, of course, just teasing.
Hey, no, I certainly joke. Sometimes it's like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sometimes I joke. Hawaii, Milan, Brazil, you could put me on a recruiting poster. I don't know who you wouldn't get to sign up for the military if you can go to places like that.
That's true.
No doubt. And the other thing I was going to ask you is studied at Columbia. So a lot of times we don't talk about the educational part. How did Columbia fit into your journey?
Well, I had the wonderful opportunity to be an embassy security guard, so I got to protect embassies and consulates around the world. And I distinctly remember a conversation I had with our regional security officer right about the inflection point where I was deciding, do I want to continue and do 20 years in the military, or do I maybe want to transition out and take these skills and experience that I gathered in the military and be successful in the civilian sector? And that regional security officer, who was very much one of my first mentors, really gave me that confidence to say, you can pursue these educational goals. You can really thrive out there in the private sector. And so when I was transitioning out, I'm originally from Westchester County, right outside the city. I knew I was coming back to the city in some capacity to go to school, and Columbia University was top of my list. And Columbia has a wonderful School of General Studies that really helps transitioning veterans succeed in an Ivy League environment. I had a wonderful 4 years at Columbia, and it really just helped me build upon my career, and it brought me to where I am today.
Scott,
Isaac, you better pick his brain, Isaac.
Yeah, man. Hey, Scott, my dad
We
was
were already talking about it before
Marine
this.
Embassy. My dad was an embassy guard during the Korean War in Korea and Japan, which is amazing. In not Korea, sorry, in Cairo and Japan during the Korean War. And I believe the name of the organization, the Marine Corps organization, is MEGA, Marine Embassy Guard Associations, of which he is a proud member. That's very cool, man.
Just want to make sure you're serious about that, Matt. Just want to make sure.
I got to get you got to get the numbers right, the name right.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we appreciate you being on with us and talking about the American Corporate Partners organization. I will say it on behalf of Marines everywhere, because there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. My dad always tells me, Semper Fi, Ura, way to go.
Rah.
Semper Fi.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Harold and I will get back to the table game theme of where we are. Played for about 20 minutes. Shahadi was the cooler. She stood next to me. I lost 15 straight hands. Our live coverage from Vegas continues, and we have to do this once an episode since we're here all week. And it's not check your cell phone. It's play blackjack. If you were on your phone at the blackjack table like Shahadi was yesterday, they're going to kick you out. Miss, you can't be on your phone.
That's so funny.
Miss.
She's wandering around with the phone near a blackjack table. Come on, Lauren.
So good.
Come on, Lauren.
So we got a couple of hands of blackjack here that we're going to try to theme out with some blackjack terminology as a device for us to identify some players.
Okay.
Right? If you are dealt a 9 and a deuce against a dealer 6, or maybe 6-5 against a dealer 6, you're going to double down. So which player are you ready to double down on having a big 2026 season, Harold?
I'm going with Addison Barger. What he showed us at the pressure cooker time of the season, we're watching a guy just turn the table to being a budding star. He can play third, play the outfield, hit lefties, hit righties. It didn't matter. He showed out when it mattered most. I think we're just scratching the surface on what he can do.
I love that pick. Hit over 350 in the postseason. He's already been a guest on Hot Stove. In fact, he showed us that great picture of when he was on our set when he was 11 years old, which is cool, amazing.
Man. What you got? Who you got?
I'm going chalky here. I mean, Nick Kurtz won American League Rookie of the Year last season. We're here in Vegas, future home of the Athletics. I think this guy, from everybody that I've spoken to, and I haven't met Nick, but everybody that's been around him says this is a generational power hitter. It's Jim Thome 2.0.
There's no doubt.
That's something high to put on a kid, because Jimmy's in the Hall of Fame, friend of the program, friend of the network. But I think Nick Kurtz has that same potential. They reassigned Jason Giambi's number there, and it's another left-handed hitting power guy.
Oh, that's good. I hadn't connected to
he's going to be a stud.
16. Yeah.
So here's the next blackjack terminology. Nobody wants to bust, and since it's a negative term, we'll say bust out. What emerging player is going to bust out? We'll put a positive spin to that blackjack terminology. Who's going to bust out in 2026?
I'm going another young player, and I'm looking to the Cubbies, Owen Casey. I think if he does not get injured at the end of the year, we might see him really take off, similar to what we saw with Addison Barger. But he's going to get a chance to play. I'm not convinced they're going to bring Kyle Tucker back, but they're going to find a place for him. And this guy's he's going to break out this season.
I like that call, too. I'm going to give you a guy who I hadn't heard of until Buster Olney, our friend at ESPN, told me about him a few years ago. He said, keep your eyes on Chandler Simpson. I had to look him up.
Yeah, you love Chandler Simpson.
And once my eyes went on this kid from his rookie year in 2020, holy cow. And you know what? He can hit, too.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of underreported part of his game. He went through a couple of stretches where he was having trouble getting on base. But once he's on base, forget it. He's not only going to advance, he's going to score. And I think this guy, with a full complement of plate appearances in 2026, is going to bust out and be a big star in our sport.
Yeah, what I saw with Chandler, finally it looks like an organization that's saying, be Chandler Simpson. Don't give me 30 home runs and strike out. Put the ball in play. If you want to bunt, drop a bunt, hit the ball the other way. You'll run into some, but let's utilize this skill of him being able to run. That dude can fly.
Yeah. Here's the next one for you. Let's go back to the felt. We found a single deck game somehow for this stuff. What about a split? What about if you're dealt a couple of 8s against a dealer 4? You're going to split that hand.
You're going to trade that hand.
Yeah, so which player would benefit from a split, a change of scenery in 2026?
We touched on him yesterday. I'm going Adley Rutschman. I'm doubling down since I'm in Vegas. I think he needs to change the scenery or a serious conversation that you're going to be the guy there in Baltimore. But there's no doubt there's a lot left in his game, and I think he needs to get to a place where he's going to get that opportunity. And I don't know if a lot of times you get offended and you maybe not turn it around. I'm not saying that's his personality, but I think he needs to change scenery.
Yeah, mine is going to be something that this won't surprise you because we heard about this at the end of the season. It didn't feel like it was really kumbaya for Nick Castellanos and the Phillies.
Yeah.
The last couple of months of the season. Nick wanted to be in there every day. There were some nights when he wasn't. And I think this is still a premier run producer in our sport. And a guy who he's not ready to let the sun set in his career either. There's plenty left in this guy's tank. And I think Nick would probably benefit from a change of scenery. And this is a tough one too, because you don't want to offend anybody by suggesting that, but I think in the case of maybe both of these guys, I think Castellanos for sure, like both sides might say, yeah, look, we like each other.
Yeah.
But let's do what's best for each other.
Sometimes they can't speak for themselves, so we'll speak for the player.
That might be right too. Yeah. All right, that was cool. That was fun.
Change.
Welcome back to Hot Stove Front Office Insights, once again presented by Sage, and it's a pleasure to have the new Washington Nationals President of Baseball Operations, Paul Taboni, on with us.
He's got his GQ picture up there, man. Look
Cal Berkeley guy, man. Played with Marcus Semien at Cal and had a lot of success in his 10-year run with the Red Sox in their front office, developing players like Roman Anthony, signing players like Marcelo Meyer.
Cal Berkeley went to the College World Series? What?
Don't sound so surprised, Oregon snob. There's other former Pac-12 schools that were pretty good, and Paul joins us on Hot Stove. Hey, congratulations on the gig, man. This is awesome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It said played in the College World Series there. I think that's a little liberal. I don't know how much I played. But
did we stretch it?
We stretched it a little
bit. That's okay. We're going to stretch a lot
of the team that went to the College
World
Series.
We try to polish things up.
That's cool.
Hey,
that's cool.
Let's start by asking you about the process, the interview process, going through it in Washington, how it went, how it landed. To talk about it from the start.
Yeah, shoot, I bring myself back to, I guess it was late September, and Craig Breslow walked into my office and told me they wanted to talk to me, and candidly, you know, the Red Sox, it's such a special organization. I wasn't sure it was something I wanted to pursue, but I knew that the city was an awesome city in D.C. They had a bunch of young, talented players, and it was a proud franchise, and so I said, hey, I'll have this first conversation, and then from there, it kind of just took off.
How did your name come up? Was it something that you might have thought pursued, or Craig said, hey, here's a guy, or what did you hear so far on how they came about with getting your name?
I'm not totally sure, but I think it was a few other executives around the league that, you know, probably, you know, receive calls from the Nats ownership group and say, hey, there's a guy in Boston that, you know, maybe is worth having a conversation with, and then from there it just
that's good stuff, man.
Yeah. So when you were interviewing and you're trying to lay out the framework of what your vision would be for the organization, where did you start, and how did you sell yourself to the group?
You know, I'm not afraid to say it. I say it to the group all the time. Like, 4 words just keep resonating in my mind, and those 4 words are the MB of sport. Just trying to create something that becomes the MB of sport. So. To me, like, I think it starts with, hey, let's get the right people in the door. I say it over and over again, but I believe very strongly that you win with people, right? And you get the right people in the door, and you help develop and grow people. I think we can ultimately achieve that vision of becoming the NBA of sports.
So human nature, September, Craig walks in and says, hey, you know, there might be interest in you in Washington. You had to start having a little bit of idea, watching the Nationals a little bit differently. What did you start seeing from September to the time you were going to sit down with them?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is there's a number of young players on the roster right now that are really talented and producing right now. And I've said it before, like, I think there's another gear in a lot of these guys. And so when you really dig in, you're like, shoot, I'd be excited to be around these guys just because I think the sky's the limit for so many of them. So that's the biggest thing that jumped out. And I think about, you know, whether it's James or CJ or Dalen or Dylan, like Dalen in the month of September he had, like I was really like, wow, man, this guy's got a chance to be a really special player. So
you put the manager in place. You got Blake Butera signed up, and I would imagine he's probably example 1A of what you just discussed, starting with people that you really feel strongly about. What's the next order of business in terms of personnel?
I think just filling out the major league staff. You know, like we got Blake in place, tremendous leader, great person. You know, he's young, but in my opinion, like I think about it like I think about players, right? Where it's like, hey, if you can go out there and play and produce, like no one cares about your age, right? So Blake, I'm really excited to work alongside, and now it's up to Blake and I working together to fill out the rest of the major league staff.
So since Matt took a shot at me being an Oregon guy, I'm tight with Dan Lanning, the head football coach there. One of the things Dan talked about all the time was when he was the young GA coming along, became an assistant, all that stuff with Nick Saban staff, you name it. He always carried with him a group of guys that he would like. So if I ever had a head coaching job, I'm putting this guy on my staff. I'm getting this guy, all the different stops. So finally he becomes a head guy, and he goes and gets these people he's had on his list. I got to think you're the same way. Where did Blake come from in your thoughts? And maybe you had some other people that are going to work in your front office along the way. You thought about that?
So Blake and I actually didn't know each other prior to this process starting, but I've always kind of had him on my radar as he's just got a really intriguing, you know, backstory. He obviously was a player, played in college, played professionally, then coached one of the youngest managers in minor league baseball, and then hopped over to the front office and was overseeing player development. It's just kind of a unique path, you know. So had him in my sights, and then, you know, my mind goes to Devin Pearson and Justin Horowitz as well, Andrew Wright, like all folks that we've brought in our front office that I've worked alongside over the years. And you know, the other thing I think about, Harold, is like, especially as folks come on to more influence, right? You want to trust that these folks aren't going to change, right?
Yeah.
And I think for all those folks I just mentioned, Blake leading the pack,
yeah,
like,
that's important.
I don't worry about that. You know, it's just, I think it goes back to the character that all these guys have, and Blake's leading the charge.
Boy, that's a super insightful thing to think about, too, because we all, I think, in our roles in baseball have been around people at one stage of their careers, and then either success or failure changes the next stage of who they become as people. That's, I guess, something to avoid in life.
Honestly, I think about it especially from like a major league staff perspective, right? It's like, oh, now that I'm the head guy, I got to start acting different, and I got to start being this, you know, guy that's hard on players, or, you know, not professional, or whatever it is. And I don't think that's the case. You got to be yourself. And you know, going back to Blake, like he's gotten here for a reason, right? And a huge part of that reason is like he's been himself throughout.
You mentioned with Blake, yourself, a lot of the people you've been around were former players. You don't have to play in the big leagues and be an all-star, but you've been in a batter's box, or you've been on the pitcher's mound, or whatever it might be. How important has that been for your journey as you've gone through with analytics and everything else, scouting, coaching? How important has having put a uniform on and played been for you?
I think it's a really a great thing. You know, it's like a tool in your tool belt. At the same time, man, I've worked alongside a number of really great people that didn't play, and they've been, you know, awesome contributors. I think about the Red Sox organization. A lot of people come to mind. So, you know, to me, it's like, hey, can you really help push the organization forward? No matter how you know your experience shapes up to do that, like, you know.
You can mix and match.
You can mix and match, and I think. At the end of the day, like, we just want, you know, humble, growth-minded people that are really willing to get to work. So.
Paul, we wish you a lot of luck, man. Congratulations on a great opportunity, a great gig for you, and go Nats. Way to go.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Paul Taboni joining us, new president of baseball operations for the Nationals. Back to the player ranks as we continue. How does a great changeup play on the links? We'll ask Ryan Pepiot about it. He's going to be playing golf this weekend in the inaugural MLB Open. And the big right-hander joins us live on Hot Stove, live from Las Vegas, coming up next.
He looked good at the end of the year.
So the MLB Open is coming up this weekend. You can watch live coverage on TNT next week. And look at Ryan Pepiot off the tee. Holy cow, dude. Big old right-hander. Punch out with a changeup, four-seam slider mix, and he'll hit it about 350 off the tees. The tips.
I like how he's got that little quick, short, low, boom.
And where was this course you were playing?
That was Quintero in Peoria, Arizona.
All right, I think I might have
you were a hitter, weren't you?
Yeah, I played shortstop and third base.
Yeah, I could tell you got that. You can hit, man.
I got a 250 AAA average.
Is that right?
Yeah.
See, I miss the fact that pitchers don't hit anymore.
We should properly bring him on. Ray's right-hander Ryan Pepio joins us on the stove. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
Wait a minute. Now, I think I got you as maybe sneaky somewhere down ballot here to win this thing. Who are you playing with? I'm looking at you're playing with David Price.
Yep.
And you're paired with the Angels duo of Scott Kazmir, who I understand is a good golfer, and Harold's man Jay Up. That's going to be a fun foursome.
That's going to be a good group. I didn't know who we were playing with, but I know Kaz pretty well, and he's a good dude, and he's a good golfer as well.
Do all the former Rays pitchers know each other? Is that a fraternity?
I guess so, a little bit. I know Glass, I know Snell, so, it's a good group of guys.
And you watched Glass and Snell pitch in the World Series this year. Inspiring for you?
Absolutely. It was a phenomenal World Series to watch as a baseball fan. And, just to see the back and forth, teams winning 2 each on the road. Dodgers down, needed to win 2 to win and take it to 7, and as entertaining as it was. And then the pitching was ridiculous. I feel like the last few years watching the playoffs, it's been short leashes for the starters, and you see Yamamoto go CG, Snell go 8, 7.
Come back and say, give me the ball.
Exactly. Just like, don't take me out of the game. And, that's what you want as a starter.
So you were traded for Glass now. It's weird that, you the guy you get traded for. That doesn't happen very often.
I met him afterwards. We were at Josh Lowe's wedding when I met him for the first time, but I heard nothing but great things about him, and he's an awesome guy. And a lot of people are like, oh, we got the mini Glass now because he's every bit of 6'8" with the long hair, and then I come in with the long hair, but I'm only 6'3". So.
And your mechanics are similar.
A little bit.
You look at it that way when you look at video, you see that?
A little bit. He cuts it a little bit more than I do. And
you got a better changeup, though, dude.
Yeah, I'll take that. But he's got a better curveball than I do.
Okay. What is it? I mean, we got so many things to ask you and not that much time, so I'll try to get to it here. What is it about the Rays pitching magic? I mean, first of all, Kyle's a tremendous pitching coach. We can start with that. But whether it's, McClanahan, somebody like you, what is it that makes everybody good once they get there?
I think it's just the belief that they have in us. I mean, Kyle's phenomenal, and I think he just did a phenomenal job with me and everyone else getting to know us on a personal level before even getting into baseball. Like when I got traded, it was, we talked for 2 weeks about just what I like to do, meeting me and my family and all that stuff rather than any baseball. Then we get into the baseball stuff, and it's just all about understanding what we do well and then going out and executing that, not trying to tinker with too many things or try a bunch of stuff, just understanding what we do well and use that to go get guys out.
It doesn't hurt you're 6'5" and yoked. I mean, this is a big dude right here, man. I wouldn't mind being that big, being a pitcher. Look at the delivery and all that. When did you have such great size? Did you grow into that, or were you always somebody that was pretty big?
Clip that off for the soundboard, please.
Kind of always a little bit bigger, but when I used to play football, so I worked out a lot growing up in high school, and then I probably was like 230 by the time I finished playing football in high school, and I've toned it down to about 210, 215, but made it a little bit better. But just understanding how my body moves well and utilizing the strength staff and the training staff to be able to use that to my mechanics.
It's awesome. Now, you've been golfing a long time?
No, not really. Kind of just started during COVID. Played a little bit before that, but once the spring training in 2020 ended, I went to my in-laws' house, and they live on a golf course. So we'd walk their dog around a loop of 4 holes, and it just took a couple days. I started bringing a couple clubs, and it was a whole bag. And then my father-in-law goes, "Hey, give me a club." He whacks one. And the next day, we're driving to Mississippi and playing the whole Robert Trent Jones Trail. And it's just been hooked since.
And he's a 5 handicap. Like a natural-born athlete versus somebody who has to work at it their whole lives like a hack like me. Hey, I want to ask you about playing at Steinbrenner Field last year. And it felt like, people in the media, fans, maybe other people were talking about how hard it was and making excuses, but you never heard that from you guys in uniform. It had to have been difficult. Talk about the experience.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It wasn't our home ballpark. The staff, and they did a phenomenal job making it try to feel like it was our home. But you're playing games when it's 100 degrees and 100% humidity, and I felt like I had every single day game. And going through 5 jerseys, and, I'm laying down in the locker room after starts, just full body cramping, and guys are just throwing pickle juice shots at me and bananas. Oh, yeah.
It was that way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was hot and all that stuff, but, it was different. You play in the Trop, and you're very happy to have AC, and then you go to where you actually have to have the wind factor and understand how it affects pitches. There wasn't
and the ball's flying.
Yeah.
That ball was flying in that
You hit a ball that gets up in the air to right field, and you're just hoping and praying on the mound. You're like, please stay in the ballpark, please stay in the ballpark. And then you just look back and you see 90 miles an hour on the exit velo, and you're like, how in the world did that get out? And then, then there's the days that the wind was howling in, and somebody would hit a 105, and it would just be like a can of corn in right field. And I'm like, what in the world? Where was that, 2 weeks ago when 3 guys were on, But, it was interesting. We knew what we had going into it during this season, and we didn't make any excuses for it. Just, we fell short of our goals, but, we made the most of it. There was a whole lot of other things. The hurricane really, it decimated our stadium, but it was the whole area that got affected more than us. So just to be able to be in the Tampa Bay region and have something exciting for the fans, and the fans showed out this year. I mean, I know there's only 11,000 or so that could come, but it felt like a sold-out crowd every single day, and it was awesome.
Your manager is one of the best in the game, one of the most successful in the game, and Kevin Cash is also sneaky funny.
Yes.
So I should have asked you this before to think about it, but I'm going to put you on the spot. It's the middle of the 6th inning. You're starting to struggle a little bit. You got 7, 8 punchies, 1 or 2 earned on 5 hits. You've been great. And Cashy comes out and says something to you other than, hey, great job, right-hander. Has he ever come out there and said something that's made you laugh or smile on your way out?
No, not when he's coming to take the ball from me, but he's a good smack talker in the dugout. Like, he'll come over and hit you with a one-liner that you're like, where in the world did that come from? And what did I do to receive that, But he's awesome. He's very personable. You can go into his office and talk to him and shoot the breeze with him a little bit. And then, he played, so he understands and he gets it. And he brings that where we're able to be ourselves and just play how we want to play and doesn't make us fall in line.
Who wins a push-up competition between you, Josh Lowe, Shane McClanahan, Yandy Diaz?
Yandy.
Yeah.
Have you seen those arms?
I had a feeling.
I'll give you a funny one. Yeah. So first day before opening day, 24, my first year here, Yandy's sitting in the food room, and I'm like, all right, everyone, he's the biggest teddy bear ever, the nicest guy, but looks intimidating, but he's the nicest guy. They're like, all right, go put all this uniform on. So I do, and I had to stuff the sleeves to make it look like him. So I got his helmet on, I got his purple arm sleeves, I got his pants on, his jersey on. I show up in there, and he just like, Pepe, take it off now. Take it off now. And I'm like, no, how do I look? Can I go hit a couple homers like you do?
That's how you met him?
No. That was after spring training. But it was just right before opening day. Get everything going and awesome. Get some excitement. It was hilarious.
Hey, we appreciate the visit, man, and we wish you luck in the Capital One MLB Open. Once again, you can watch live coverage next week, the 18th on TNT.
I got another question, man. I just wanted to ask you strategy. What's your strategy? You try the long drive?
Save the longest question for the very end. Why don't you? Yes, go ahead.
Strategy.
That's a
strategy. I haven't played out there yet. I've watched a couple, videos on YouTube of the golf course. Try to take a look and see what I'm getting myself into.
Oh, see, that's why you're a 5 handicap.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to try to, they always say drive for show. So, and I don't putt very well, so I'm not going to make any dough when I'm putting. But, just try to hit as far as I can to keep it as straight as possible.
Save your best drive for 18, because I'll be set up there asking questions at the end of the round.
What's your longest drive?
Does it count if it hits the cart path?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it counts.
No. Longest drive, probably like 370.
Holy smokes.
370.
That's going to be fun.
Folks.
It's going to be fun.
Ryan Pepio, thanks for joining us, man. Good to have you on with us.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Good luck this weekend at the Open. Let's take a break. Been a fun couple of hours. 370 off. It's easy. That's our third shot. I'll get the 370. We're going to come back and say something and say goodbye on a Tuesday on Veterans Day, live in Vegas, coming up next.
Thrift Dork, I won't bother with fashion advice with Maddie, but it's all about the book bags. Why do they have a million zippers on them? No chance you find anything in there? Fact or fiction?
Oh, no, that's where you put all your stuff.
What do you got in all those pockets?
Breath mints.
Listerine strips.
Just all the little things.
In your jacket?
Yeah, little zippered pockets. I could put the safety pins in here, the Band-Aids in this one.
Extra socks for the flight.
All that stuff.
Toothpick.
You might have noticed behind us, by the way, on the marquee for Bellagio, they're promoting a Cirque du Soleil show that's been in-house for years, the O show, the water theme show. On the other side of that marquee, they're promoting the network with our best circus acts. And there they are.
You're so
We got Heyman, we got BK. Who else is in there? See? I didn't make it.
What,
It's good.
what are you guys doing the rest of the day?
I'm gonna get a spray tan.
いかがだったでしょうか。来シーズンは日本人選手の新人王獲得に期待したいですね。そしていよいよ今週木曜には MVP の発表です。本チャンネルでもタイムリーにお届けしていきます。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。さようなら。